Just some interesting lamps that I've gotten in the past year or so, which can be very useful if you do larger scale off-grid solar stuff, or things where you've got 48 volt nominal, or in the case of one of these lamps, a 72 volt nominal battery bank, which isn't as common as it should be, but that's a rant for another video. First off is this GEC, that's a General Electric Company of England, not to be confused with the General Electric of the meatball design fame over here. Actually, this company ultimately became affiliated with Osram. Standard PS19 lamp, and very interesting etch design. It's designed for, so it's very easy to mark out different potentials and power ratings on the lamp etch. So of course, GEC made in England. The 82SH is the date code. I don't know what the 82 refers to, because that's not in the documentation that I have, but the SH refers to the date of manufacture, which in this case is August of 1985. The S is a A through Z sequence, skipping I and O, that they used from 1969 until 1992. So you work it out, and the S aligns with 1985 in that sequence, like a T would be 1986. And the H is the same as the month delineation in the Phillips date code system, A through M, skipping I. And of course, H being the 8th letter of the alphabet, it's August. So yeah, a fairly useful lamp for 48 volt systems. Just don't put it on 120 or 240 volts. It will go bang, and that will be a problem because these are ridiculously hard to get, and of course, especially from England, because they don't have any lamp works anymore. Not after Phillips Hamilton closed down in, what was it, November, December 2019. Next are some also quite interesting lamps, and probably some of the only ones in the country, made by Riva, Lampen München, which is Glow Lamps Munich. And Lampenwerk München is, glow lamp factory in Munich. Of course, 55 volt, 100 or 50 volt, 25 watt, fairly unusual rating. And here's the lamp, which has somewhat interesting filament form. It's really kind of a C2V almost, although you can see it was adapted from a arbor assembly which was designed for C9 filament lamps. And overall, fairly typical, somewhat decent quality German-made lamp. Only problem is that the 55 volt 25 watt on these lamps is almost illegible, which is one of the reasons why I keep it in this box if it's not being used. You sort of see there 25 watt, 55 volt up there, but not the most legible of etches. And if you're interested what that red stuff on the stem for the support button is, that is a phosphorus pentoxide based getter, which is used to take up and react with especially oxygen and water vapor that may be present in the lamp. And of course that was later replaced with phosphorus pentanitride getters in later lamps, which have the advantage of, especially in smaller lamps, the deposit it leaves is kind of whitish instead of red or pink. And the last lamp, 80 volts, 40 watts, and the Stoßfest, which is rough service. And here's the lamp. A much more legible etch on this one. And this one has a much more standard 4 support C9 filament. Somewhat offset. But that's an artifact of the manufacturing process, because with these lamps, ordinarily the two lead-in wires would be bent a lot further to the left in this perspective, so that way the filament would form more of a partial circle. In this, it's a half circle. And Really, for the purposes of this lamp, it doesn't matter all that much. It's more of an aesthetic thing than anything else, but it does save them a bit of time in terms of the bending operation of the filament. Especially given that this is probably made on a line which is designed much more for European type GLS lamps, where they use a C9 filament, but it's got a very, shall we say, unpronounced bend to it. It would look a lot more like this. This is a fairly standard European GLS lamp. Osram, made in France, in Morsheim. That's what the lowercase h refers to. This is actually a fairly interesting date code that they adopted, I think in about 2015, at least that's when I first saw it, for lamps made in Morsheim. Which, if you're wondering why a German-sounding town or city is in France, it's because it's in Alsace-Lorraine, or Alsace-Lothringen, if you want to piss the French off. And it's one of those towns which changes which country it's in, depending on the results of the last war. Because it's right on the German border. Yeah, but it's November 2017. Under their older system, which they used from 1994, and for most factories they still use it, that would be H7B8, the terminal 8, and that referring to the monthly date code system. If it were quarterly, it would be a 9, and for the weekly, daily, and shift systems, well, the daily and shift systems, it would be a 1 through a 7 for day 1, Monday through day 7, Sunday of the week. But yeah, you can see it's a C9 filament, but it doesn't bend all that much. Of course, also this one, because of the bend of the lead-in wires, the filament's a lot more centered in the envelope. And of course, also being a Morsheim lamp, it uses a malachite-based filament, or not a malachite-based basing cement, which is why it's that pronounced green color.